The Witness of Ancient Wisdom, Psalm 33 by Nan Merrill. From Psalms for Praying, an invitation to wholeness. Rejoice in the beloved, O you holy ones. Praise is a grace of the loving. Praise the beloved with strings and reeds. Give praise with dance and leaps. Sing a new song and shout with a joyful heart. For the work of the Creator is truth, and all creation reflects the faithfulness of the beloved. Justice and mercy we render to the Holy One, to the universe filled with love divine. Through love consciousness, the heavens and the earth were created, and all who dwell on the earth by the Creator's breath of life. All creation, from the distant stars to the depths of the seas, is held together by the oneness of love. May all the earth reverence the beloved. May everyone stand in awe of love. For when the beloved speaks, it comes to pass, as love's way guides and directs. Thus it stands. Without love, the nation's counsel comes to nothing. The plans of the people are futile. The counsel of the Creator is eternal, available to every generation. Blessed are the nations that listen in silence and make decisions with wisdom's counsel. Blessed are all people who respond to love's way. For the beloved dwells in every heart that is open and receptive. Into our hands, into our hearts, does the beloved surrender, that we might do with love what we will. Do we not know that the nations are not saved by military might, just as generals are not saved by their own strength? All such arms are the outward expression of greed in fearful hearts. They will reap only despair, death, and destruction. Behold, the love of the beloved is stronger than 10,000 bombs, more to be desired than the wealth of all nations. We do not know that to dwell in the heart of the beloved is the promise to every nation, the birthright of all people, the journey of life eternal. Our soul yearns for the beloved, for peace, joy, and assurance. Then will our hearts be glad and sing songs of gratitude, praising the name of the Holy One. May every nation come to live in the steadfast love and wisdom of the Spirit of truth. May all peoples work with love divine.
This is my poem called Unothering, and it begins with a quotation. To recognize each other through our veil of differences, by Bruce Springsteen. Each of us is a gathering of dust, each mote to be dispersed again, then gathered into new gatherings. Let us unother each other, each holy soul, made of star stuff, bound together by the law of attraction. Seeing you as other is an illusion. It will not make me safer, stronger, happier, more whole. My list of ways we are different from each other is written in the sand. In good time, the moon lifts the waves to smooth the sand again, unothering us over and over. God is still speaking.
And we are still listening. Thanks be to God.
Amen. Will you join me once more in prayer? Merciful God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our help and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, it is good to be back with you this morning. It felt like a long, full emotion-filled week of summer. How are you doing this morning, friends? Hot. Among other things, hot is, yes, one of the things we are feeling. Over the last several weeks, we've had a few topical sermons celebrating Safety Sunday and then Camp Sunday. And while I found a way to connect each of those themes to a psalm, I recognized that they were not particularly pastoral messages and sermons. But earlier this year, when I was contemplating what our summer worship might be like, I tried to imagine what it might be like on this Sunday after the 4th of July, as the heat is coming on, what words we might need. And I had a hunch that we might need words of hope, healing, and renewal, which is why I'm so eager to delve a little bit deeper into our theme for this month of psalms, poems, and prayers. In the spirit of becoming contemplatives in action, we'll be exploring a different psalm every week, juxtaposing them alongside poetry and prayers. I want to thank Leslea Smith for sharing her poetry this morning and reminding us that seeing another person as other, seeing ourselves as independent of one another is really just an illusion. That we are, in fact, very interconnected and interdependent. So thank you. That is a message we need to hear right now, and a message that we find echoed in our text for today. The Psalms are a special genre, a genre all to themselves, actually. In his book, Reflections on the Psalms, author C.S. Lewis writes, "The Psalms are poems, and poems intended to be sung, not doctrinal treatises, not even sermons. They must be read as poems, as lyrics with all the licenses and formalities, the hyperboles, the emotional rather than the logical connections, which are proper to lyric poetry." Which is to say, I think that when we read the Psalms, we're engaging in an act of art appreciation. We should look for various structures, forms, styles, and patterns. We should appreciate the imagery, the rhythm, and rhyme. And rather than ask the Psalms to speak to us in the language of science or history, we can accept that we are engaging in a whole different mode of truth-telling. Now, for many of us, the Psalms are beloved. And you probably have a favorite psalm or two. Any suggestions? What are your favorite psalms, friends? 139 next week. The 23rd Psalm. I was thinking Psalm 121, I lift my eyes to the hills. Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength. We have a number of psalms that, even if you don't think you know them, you probably know them. You've probably sung them or prayed them or heard them enough times that they feel familiar. I've often thought at many of a memorial, I like to read the scriptural text in lots of different translations, but it's pretty hard to improve on the poetry of Psalm 23 in the King James. That it's become a hollowed text just in that one form. But other psalms aren't so well known. For instance, today's psalm, Psalm 33. The editors of my New Revised Standard Version call it a psalm on the greatness and goodness of God. While I have a few translations I tend to favor, I sometimes find it meaningful to read from new and very different translations. But I came to the Psalms as a young person. I had a little devotional book that gave me a psalm to read for every day. And with 150 psalms, I could make my way through over a couple months. I used to love reading the Psalms, and I even wrote a few songs, like Becky, to accompany these texts, which we love so much. But then in seminary, I took a course on the Psalms. I loved the Psalms, so I wanted to take a course all about the Psalms. And what we did is we dissected them down to every minute detail. And somewhere along that journey, which was very interesting and educational, I sort of lost the romance of the Psalms. And I don't recall who introduced me to this book, but it is Psalms for Praying, An Invitation to Wholeness by Nan C. Merrill, which we've just heard spoken twice already, from Psalm 100 and Psalm 33. And it was in reading this that some of the romance came back to me, of reading these beautiful, beautiful poems. It's not only that it includes inclusive and contemporary language, other translations also do that, but there's something about the way that this collection captures the ideas that I find especially arresting and inspiring. It's not a literal word-for-word translation, it's a paraphrase, more like Eugene Peterson's The Message. It speaks to the modern ear with more power and clarity. I was trying to learn more about the author, Nan Merrill, and learned that she passed in 2010. And this was written and published in 2007. And I imagine this is probably her life's work. And that's probably why it has already sold more than 50,000 copies. She was a contemplative, and she occupied herself with urban ministry. She led parish retreats and participated in prison ministry for over 30 years. She's known as the creator of a newsletter called the Friends of Silence. She wrote other books, Meditations and Mandalas, Simple Songs for the Spiritual Life, Journey into Love, From Fear to Freedom, tracing the literal, metaphorical, and archetypal journey into Jerusalem. She is a very deep thinker and a wonderful, talented writer. But she once wrote, "I truly believe we stand on the brink of either a great darkness beyond imagining, or, if humanity can awaken to our environmental, societal, institutional challenges, we can create a global garden where lasting peace, true justice, integrity, cooperation, freedom, and respect for all peoples and all creation will reign. I believe that as individuals offer their grain of sand gifts, a tide of growing goodwill and service will wash over the earth, a groundswell of renewed life for everyone." Isn't that just what the world needs right now? Of course, it is summer, and we are feeling the heat. We are feeling the alarm, even, of our state of our environment. The Supreme Court has just delivered a flurry of rulings and dissents with far-reaching implications. Judging by your socials, and maybe the attendance today, there's a little bit of despair in the air over the current state of our country, over the world at large. My sense is that we are looking for a groundswell of renewed life, that we long to drink deep of the wells of living water in this particular moment, that we need words which will give room for all that we're feeling and then nudge our hearts towards hope and healing and restoration. I say, hear these words again from Psalm 33 in Nan Merrill's translation. "Without love, the nation's counsel comes to nothing. The plans of the people are futile. Blessed are the nations that listen in silence and make decision with wisdom's counsel. Blessed are the people who respond to love's way. The love of the beloved is stronger than 10,000 bombs, more desired than the wealth of all nations. Do we not know that to dwell in the heart of the beloved is the promise of every nation, the birthright of all people, the journey to life eternal? Our soul yearns for the beloved, for peace, joy, and assurance. Then will our hearts be glad and sing songs of gratitude, praising the name of the Holy One. May every nation come to live in the steadfast love and wisdom of the Spirit of truth. May all peoples works with love divine. These are beautiful calls to us to respond to God and God's love with faithfulness and hope. This is only slightly different from that version you'll read on page 480 in your Pew Bible. But Merrill captured something about the spirit of this passage. She spoke truth and comfort to me at the same time in the midst of this week. And I hesitate to even try to describe it because it feels like that dissection I did in that class so long ago. I just want to appreciate it as it is. But it has a truth it conveys about the folly of nations and leaders, the lies we choose to believe about those who are different from us, and the truth that all people yearn for peace, joy, and assurance. When we reject the politics and the religion of othering towards ourselves, towards those around us, towards our global and next-door neighbors, towards the creation itself, then we will sing and be glad. I was thinking back to our participation in the 4th of July parade. Our family joined one of the groups pedaling our bicycles along with the local bike co-op. And it's amazing to me, all these people who represent Hillsborough from so many diverse backgrounds and walks of life. People who would never probably say hello to me. When I waved and said, "Happy 4th," they smiled and waved back. And there was a connection. And I was reminded of the humanity that we all share. The ability to bridge gaps, distances, divides. We've been working on considering a new vision statement as a church, trying to boil down what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish as a congregation here at the corner of 5th and Main. And this is the best we've come up with, to foster beloved community in harmony with God, self, and neighbor. Now that might feel like a bumper sticker, and maybe it is, but we're trying to encompass so much in a way that we can all remember and share and might fit on the back of a t-shirt. I'm not sure we've captured it perfectly. I'm not sure we'll find any words that are much better. But I believe that is what we are aiming for. That is what we are yearning for, hoping for, praying for as a congregation. Now, there are lots of different kinds of sermons. There are some that are meant to educate, others to motivate, some to console, others to confront. This is not a sermon of challenge. This is only an invitation to come in and sit by the fire. So for those who are here in this room, those who are watching online, or maybe sitting around a campfire with their family or friends, I humbly invite you to turn to the Psalms once again, to give them a second look, or first perhaps. Maybe even pen a few of your own. I invite you to pick up a collection of poetry and to read it deeply and listen for the spirit of humanity alive within. I hope that you'll welcome more of that spirit into your own spiritual practice during this summer season of rest and renewal. There is so much that weighs on our hearts and our minds right now. The time for advocacy and action is always now and now and now. But any experienced activist knows that you can't live in that state 24/7, 365. You have to take times away. You have to make room for Sabbath rest and renewal. That indeed doing so is an act of resistance. But whenever we find we aren't in harmony with ourselves, our other, the creator or creation, we will find that there is no peace. There is no peace because there is no justice, within or without. It sounds too simple, but reading and writing can help us process all of the thoughts and feelings and emotions that we find so hard to express at times. They can help us when we ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Is there some response I'm being invited into? Is there a way for me to lay this burden down and trust that the one who holds each atom, each planet, each star in place can hold this too? As we gather at the communion table, seeking harmony in body and spirit between us and our neighbor, I invite us to listen deep for that spirit. And I invite you to listen as I close with this poem from a collection of poems called Healing the Divide, Poems for Kindness and Connection. This is Waving Goodbye by Wesley McNair. Why, when we say goodbye at the end of an evening, do we deny that we are saying it at all? As in, we'll be seeing you, or I'll call, or stop in, somebody's always at home. Meanwhile, our friends telling us the same things go on disappearing beyond the porch light into the space which, except for a moment here or there, is always between us, no matter what we do. Waving goodbye, of course, is what happens when the space gets too large for words, a gesture so innocent and lonely. It could make a person weep for days. Think of the hundreds of unknown voyagers in the old, fluttering newsreel, patting and stroking the growing distance between their nameless ship and the port that they are leaving, as if to promise, I'll always remember, and just as urgently, always remember me. Is it loneliness, too, that makes the neighbor down the road lift 2 fingers up from his steering wheel as he passes, day after day, on his way to work, in the hello that turns into goodbye? What can our own raised fingers do for him, locked in his masculine purposes and speeding away inside the glass? How can our waving wipe away the reflex so deep in the woman next door to smile and wave on her way into her house with the mail? We'll never know if she is happy or sad or lost. It can't. Yet in that moment, before she and all the others and we ourselves turn back to our separate lives, how extraordinary it is that we make this small flag with our hands to show the closeness we wish for, in spite of what pulls us apart again and again. The porch light snapping off, the car picking its way down the road through the dark. Amen.